Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining the NCAA Initial Eligibility webinar today. My name is Amber Viles. I'm the Assistant Director of Communications for the NCAA Eligibility Center, and today I'm joined by my colleagues, Jansen Raymond and Ivory Long. A few quick housekeeping things to note here before we get started. First, of course, yes, this is being recorded and will be emailed to everybody who registered today. So we know that there's a lot of information covered, but you will be able to go back and watch the recording at your own pace. This email also includes a PDF with all of the links today. So if you see anything hyperlinked or if we put anything in the chat, it is going to be linked on that PDF and emailed out to you. As noted on our previous slide, hopefully you can hear us and see us, but we cannot hear or see you. So please use the Q&A function to ask us any questions. We'll also be using this Q&A section, the chat section, to post all the links that we mentioned. So any QR codes that you see, if you don't want to use your phone to scan QR codes, completely fine. We'll have them in the chat for you to link and click as well. So to start, I'll be discussing what is the NCAA Eligibility Center. Then I'm going to toss things over to Ivory to discuss NCAA schools and core courses. Jansen's going to come on and discuss certification outcomes, recruiting, and of course, the all-important high school portal. Pay really close attention when Jansen goes over that high school portal section. I'll hop back on, we'll talk about resources, and of course, we'll take your questions live. So what is the NCAA Eligibility Center? The NCAA Eligibility Center is the front door of the NCAA. We greet you, we take your coat, we walk you in. And what I'm trying to say here is that we know that you wear a lot of hats. This process, we totally understand, is just a part of your overall job responsibilities. But that's exactly why we're having this webinar, because we are responsible for evaluating and reviewing your student athletes for NCAA competition, but you are what helps get them here. And the better our collaboration is together, the more empowered your students are going to be to take advantage of the opportunity of playing sports while getting a college education. So let's talk about NCAA schools. First, we have a divisional breakdown that shows how the NCAA team makes a big impact on students globally. We service over 1,000 colleges and universities, and we help over 500,000 student athletes. Keep in mind, we do this with a team of about 50. So I always like to say we are a small team, but we sure are mighty. Here's a slide that discusses NCAA sports. So it's got all of our sports listed out. We do host 90 national championships, which is almost 54,000 student athletes participating in NCAA championships each year. We also have listed here our emerging sports. So whenever you get the PDF to this PowerPoint, go ahead and click that gray box of emerging sports if you're ever curious on what that list is, and it will give you the most up-to-date list of emerging sports. Now I'm going to hand things over to Ivory Long. Ivory is the Assistant Director of Outreach and Strategic Partnerships, and she's going to discuss choosing an NCAA school.
Thank you, Amber. Choosing a school can be overwhelming for your student athletes. So we wanted to provide a resource and some recommendations to share with your student athletes as they're going through the process of deciding what school would be a best fit for them. We want student athletes to have an important role and involvement in that process. We want them to have a responsibility as they go through the process because they're the ones who's going to be spending the next 4 to 5 years of their life at this NCAA school. And we want to make sure that it's a good fit for them. So some recommendations that we want to share with you is when student athletes come to you to ask how can they make the right decision, some things to keep in mind is choosing the school size. If your student athlete is looking at, a bigger school, but they would do better in a smaller setting, maybe that school wouldn't be the best fit for them. The school location, if they want their parents and families and guardians to come watch them, a school across the country may not be the best fit. Also looking at whether that school has their major or minor, the cost of attendance, the admission requirements. These are all important factors when deciding a school for your student athlete. Now, there are 3 requirements that we like to share when it comes to eligibility and your student athlete playing at the next level. The first requirement is that student athlete must graduate high school. The second one is they must meet the academic and amateurism requirements of the NCAA Eligibility Center. And then also they have to meet the admission requirements to that NCAA college or school that they're looking at. Now, I'm a former high school teacher and I'm a high school track and field coach. And so I share this information with my student athletes very often. This is one piece that I see that our student athletes don't recognize as important. Some student athletes may think that if they get a scholarship offer from a college coach, or if they register with the NCAA Eligibility Center, then that's an automatic go and buy into that college or university. But what we want student athletes to remember is that they have to apply and be accepted into that NCAA school or university. Just because they have a certification account through the NCAA Eligibility Center and just because they have scholarship offers does not mean that they are admitted into that college or university. We also want to make sure that they understand that this slide is something we like to include to help show the importance of academic success. Only about 2% of high school athletes are awarded athletic scholarships, and we want student athletes to know that it's just important to succeed in the classroom as well on the court, the field, the pool, the track, and we want to make sure that they see that student athletes know that the academic success can help offset costs that isn't covered by athletics. Not every student athlete will get a full ride scholarship. This also may be a deciding factor when college coaches have limited scholarships available, or when coaches have athletic similarities between recruits, the academic success could be a factor as well. Now, this is a slide that we are very proud of because this is something that we created to show a great graphic that helps you see the start to finish of the process from your student athletes from high school to college. Now, if you have your phones and you want to take a picture of this, but like as Amber said, you will be getting a PDF version of this presentation, and so this slide will be included. But as you see on this track, it shows the different steps that student athletes need to make, from registering with the EC, planning to take their core courses, how to transition from a free profile page account to a certification account, which we'll go more in detail in a few slides, understanding the recruiting process, asking their high school counselors for advice and guidance, especially when it comes to core courses and helping them or uploading their high school transcripts. I always tell student athletes that their high school counselors need to be their best friends because you are involved in the process as well. We also talk about signing their national letter of intent, what they need to do when it comes to time to request for final amateurism, uploading those final transcripts with proof of graduation, and then being certified by the NCAA Eligibility Center and walking onto campus. Now, this is our website, eligibilitycenter.org, and this is our homepage. And this is where student athletes can go on and register with a profile page account or a certification account. And one thing we want to make sure that if you don't take anything from this webinar, but it's registration is required. Not a lot of student athletes understand that they have to be registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center in order to compete at the collegiate level. Now, there are three different accounts that we are going to talk about today. The first one we're going to talk about is the free profile page account. Now, in a perfect world, we would love for student athletes as young as the 7th or 8th grade to register with a free profile page account. It is free. It gives them their NCAA ID number. And then we also send out emails that talk about mental health. We talk about other different life expectancies that as they go through along the high school career and what to expect in the college space as well. So a free profile page account is where we would like them to start. Student athletes may not know what division they want to go to. They don't know if they want to go Division I or Division II, or if they even want to play at the collegiate level. We have student athletes change their minds all the time. So this is a great starting point for student athletes as they decide what they want to do in those next steps to competing at the collegiate level. The next one we're going to talk about is the Academic and Amateurism Certification Account. Now, if your student athlete isn't sure where they want to go and they have that free profile page account, and then those college coaches start reaching out, or they decide they do want to compete at the Division I or Division II level, they can take that free profile page account and transition into this certification account. Now, this is a very important account because if your student athlete wants to compete at the Division I or Division II level, if they want to go on an official visit, that is where colleges will pay for them to visit, and we will get into more detail about that later in the presentation. If they want to sign a national letter of intent and receive an athletic scholarship, they must be registered with an academic and amateurism certification account. Now, there is a fee of $100 for domestic students and $160 for international students, and that is a one-time fee. The final account is the amateurism only certification account. Now, this is required for all international student athletes planning to compete at the Division III level. There is a registration fee of $70. And then also, if you have any student athletes transferring from a two-year school to an NCAA Division I or Division II school who didn't require an Eligibility Center academic certification, they would need the amateurism only certification account as well. Now, we don't want fees to deter student athletes from pursuing their dreams to compete at the collegiate level. We do offer a fee waiver option. Once a student athlete completes the certification, they will have the option to pay with a credit card or check the fee waiver box if they meet fee waiver criteria. Now, one of the responsibilities of the primary and secondary contact is submitting a fee waiver. Once a student athlete completes that certification account, and if they check that box of fee waiver, we like them to come to their school counselor and let them know that one, they completed that certification account, and then two, that they believe they're eligible for a fee waiver. Then as a primary or secondary contact, you will go into the high school portal in their account and approve that student athlete's fee waiver. Now, if a student meets any fee waiver criteria and has not attended a U.S. high school, so if they're an international student or they were homeschooled, a task would be assigned to their Eligibility Center account with fee waiver requirement instructions. Now we're going to talk about core courses. Not all high school courses are counted as NCAA core courses. So this slide shows the courses we at the Eligibility Center look at when it comes to ensuring student athletes meet the academic requirements. You, along with student athletes and families, can find a list of NCAA approved core courses by going to our website, eligibilitycenter.org, and then in the upper right-hand corner, it says high school administrators. You can click on that link and then you could go to list of NCAA courses, enter the name of your student athlete's high school, and they can see the list of NCAA approved core courses that are offered at your high school. 16 credits must be complete in 4 years or 8 semesters to be eligible at the Division I and Division II level. This slide shows the breakdown of credits of each course to be eligible at the Division I level. So when you look at scheduling your student athletes for their classes and for their years coming up, make sure that we keep in mind that they are being scheduled in the right courses. As you see on this slide, if your student athlete wants to go Division I, they would need 4 credits of English, 3 credits of math, and we look at the Algebra 1 level or higher, 2 credits of science, so biology, physics, chemistry, and one of those years of science or credits of science need to include a lab if your school offers. 1 credit of an extra or an additional English, math, or science. 2 credits of a social science. So social science would be social studies courses, history, geography, government, those type of courses. And then the last one is 4 credits of any other additional courses. These courses are not required, but if a student athlete wants to take a world language, say Spanish or French, they want to take a sociology course or a non-doctrinal religion course, those are some other opportunities that student athletes can take as core courses as well. Now, this slide explains the Division I core course time limitation. Now, we talked about a requirement of student athletes having to complete 16 core courses. Now, when we talk about the core course time limitation, we have something what we call 10-7. And what that means is out of those 16 core course requirements, 10 of those courses must be completed before that student athlete enters their 7th semester or their senior year. 7 of those courses need to be in English, math, or science. And remember, the math has to be at that Algebra 1 level or higher. Once a student begins their 7th semester or their senior year, any course that is needed to meet that 10-7 requirement cannot be replaced or repeated. Remember, that 10-7 is locked in as soon as that student athlete attends or walks into their 7th semester of high school. Now, this is an example schedule that we like to share with high school counselors, coaches, student athletes, and their families. This shows that if student athletes are enrolled in at least 4 core courses each year, that is easy to meet that 16 core course requirement, and also a good way to meet that 10-7 if that student athlete is wanting to go compete at the Division I level. Another responsibility of the primary and secondary contact is managing core courses. Now, we did link a tutorial to this. If you are responsible for managing the core course list at your high school, there is a tutorial. And again, you will be able to click this link to view that tutorial when you get a copy of the PDF. Core course titles are submitted and will be reviewed to determine if those core courses meet the NCAA core course legislation. What we do is we look at the course contents. We also look at the rigor of performance and assessments that are given in those core courses. We also want to know at the bottom of this slide, we have linked the High School Review Committee Policies and Procedures resource that outlines the criteria used for review when we look at the core courses that you submit. On the high school portal, you can also view your school's information, the account status of your school, any grading scales that you have, and then underneath that section, you will be able to review your school's list of NCAA approved core courses. You can view the approved core courses, the courses that may be on hold due to us needing additional information, also archived titles, and courses designated as not approved. Now, on the status updates tab in the portal, you can check on the status of your core course submissions over the last 60 days. Now, we do want to make sure to note that submissions will be marked as complete or incomplete. For courses that have been reviewed, you may find the decisions by clicking on the high school's list of NCAA courses tab. Now, on the Submit Updates to My High School's List tab, you can add new course offerings. So if there are core courses that your school offers and you want to add those, you can add that under that tab. You can archive courses that are no longer taught. And I want to make sure that you understand that any archived courses, student athletes who took those previously, it will not hurt them. We will still be able to use those. An archived course just shows that that course is not offered at your school anymore. You can also change the name of course titles and add science labs to existing titles if you want to add a lab to a science course. The next tab we're going to talk about is Submit Pending Course Documents tab. Now, under this tab, you can upload core course documents for review for titles listed as additional information required. So if there's a task that we require additional information, this is where you would upload documents supporting that information. You can also submit core course documents for review if you believe one of the following not approved reason codes were misapplied. So if you submitted a core course and you got a denial code and you believe that that was misapplied, under this tab, you can submit documents that are for review if you believe that that is the case. Now, one update that we have recently made is that during COVID, we had a COVID relief where any core course that a student athlete took online as an online course, a distance learning course, or hybrid course, if it was taken between March of 2020, so the spring of 2020, up until August 31st, 2023, we did not require that online program or platform to be NCAA approved through the Eligibility Center. Now, as of September 1, 2023, so a few days ago, we are going back to pre-COVID times. So any online course taken on or after September 1 of 2023, that online platform will need to be approved through the NCAA Eligibility Center. So if you have online platforms that you're not sure that are approved or may have not been approved, you want to make sure you call into the NCAA high school line and get that reviewed so then we can make sure that your student athletes are taking the correct courses and getting credit for those courses that they take online should your platform be approved. Now I'm going to hand things over to my colleague Jansen, and he's going to talk to you about certification outcomes at the Division I and Division II level.
Thank you so much, Ivory. Yes, like she stated, we are going to be talking about certification outcomes that your students may fall in under for Division I, Division II, and we are also going to touch on Division III. Your student athletes are going to fall in one of four pillars. They're going to be early academic qualifiers, qualifiers, academic redshirts, or non-qualifiers. We're going to talk about just number 2, 3, and 4 today. For a Division I qualifier, they're going to need to complete 16 core courses, but before they get there, they're going to need to have what we call the 10-7-7 rule. They're going to need to complete 10 core courses by their 7th semester, 7 being in English, math, or science. They're going to need to earn a GPA of a 2.3 in the required subject areas, and they're going to submit a proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. Once they've done this, they'll be able to compete, practice, and receive that athletic aid. The next pillar that they may fall under is the academic redshirt. This is someone that completed 16 core units in the required subject areas, earned a 2.0 or higher GPA. They submitted a proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. This person would not be able to compete their first year, but they would be able to practice and receive that athletic aid. And the next pillar is the Division I non-qualifier. Non-qualifiers are not eligible to receive athletic aid, practice, or compete their first year at an NCAA Division I school. Now, Division II is a little bit different, so pay close attention. There's an early academic qualifier, or partial qualifier. Again, we're just going to go over 2 and 3 for Division II. A Division II qualifier is someone that completed 16 core units in the required subject areas. You do not see the 10-7-7 rule. This is someone that had a 2.2 or higher GPA. They submitted a proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. They are able to practice, compete, and receive the athletic aid. And the last pillar that your student athlete could fall under for Division II is going to be a partial qualifier. This is a college-bound student athlete that did not meet Division II qualifier standards. They will be deemed a partial qualifier. They would not be able to compete their first year. They would be able to receive the athletic aid and practice. And Division III is a little bit different than Division I and Division II. Each Division III school determines its own eligibility for academic requirements, admissions, and financial aid. International student athletes who plan to compete at a Division III school must complete an NCAA Eligibility Center amateurism only, the one that Ivory talked about earlier, certification account. Domestic student athletes who plan to compete at a Division III school may register for a free profile page account, but it's not required. Let's talk a little bit about recruiting. Is your student athlete being recruited? These are not limited to these, but these are just cues that we tell student athletes, hey, if you receive any of these, odds are you're probably being recruited or they're at least showing interest. Call, text, emails. Again, coaches cannot do this year round. We're going to get into the recruiting calendar next of when they can and cannot do this, but these are just reminders of what recruiting would look like from coaches. Recruiting can begin as early as freshman year. In most cases, recruiting does start before junior year. An institution request list, also known as an IRL, is a list of college-bound student athletes an NCAA school is interested in recruiting. A student must be on an NCAA school's IRL to receive an Eligibility Center certification. Once they do this, they'll be able to receive the athletic aid, practice, and compete. A few slides ago, we talked about the recruiting calendar when a coach can and cannot reach out to your student athlete. We call them contact period, quiet period, and dead period. If you want to go to on.ncaa.com/recruitcal, it is going to divide this up by division and by sport of when that coach can and cannot reach out to your student athlete, when your student athlete can and cannot visit the school's campus. So again, please visit that website on.ncaa.com/recruitcal. And again, it will divide it by sport and division your student athlete is interested in playing. Next, we have the official versus unofficial visits. In the previous slide, we just talked about when your kids can and can't go on campuses. Let's define what an official visit is and what an unofficial visit is. For official visits, this is a visit to a college campus paid for by the NCAA school the student is visiting. Before Division I or Division II official visit, the student must do all three of these things: register for a certification account, be on a school's IRL, and send a high school transcript in. For unofficials, this is a visit to a college campus paid for by the student or the student athlete's family members. We're not going to go through every single category, but this breaks down what an official and unofficial visit looks like when it's paid for, not paid for, and what division it falls under. Again, if you look, Division I, you have your lodging. Division II, you have your lodging as well. They are going to be slightly different per divisions. So please be sure to visit that on.ncaa.com/recruitcal to look at the outlook of what will be paid for and what will not be paid for by that school. Questions to ask. These are not limited to just these questions, but we encourage all student athletes as they're visiting these schools to ask some, if not all, questions or questions they may have. Example, if I get injured as a freshman and can no longer compete, is my scholarship available junior, sophomore, junior, and senior year? Am I on a full ride? If I'm not, what portion of that scholarship am I supposed to pay for? Playing time. How many others at my position are you recruiting? How many others at my position are on the team? Again, we're not going to go through every single one of these questions. This just helps get your student athletes to think as they're on these official and unofficial visits, questions they should be asking these coaches. Recruiting best practices. Encourage your students to talk with their support system about what level of competition they think the student should aim for. Remind them to check their email often for open Eligibility Center tasks. Encourage them to use the interactive map to locate NCAA schools that they're interested in attending. Remind them to research their division and sport-specific recruiting periods, which we just talked about. And then also check the admissions requirements. Again, we are two separate entities from that university. They must be eligible by us, and they also must get in to that school that they want to go to or that is recruiting them. So check admission requirements. More recruiting best practices, encourage them to email college coaches during their sports contact period, share achievements and interest, make sure they're including that NCAA ID number. Again, it's that 10-digit number that Ivory talked about. Make sure they include the year that they're graduating, the year that they plan to enroll, remind them to take those official and unofficial visits, and encourage them to conduct themselves at all times in a positive manner in class, practices, games, at home, in their community, and very importantly, online. Coaches are checking those social media handles, and that is a big platform that they check on first. Name, image, and likeness, also known as NIL. NCAA student athletes can benefit from their name, image, and likeness. We won't spend too much time on this slide, but we encourage students to contact their future NCAA school's compliance office. If they have any questions right now, we would encourage them to visit ncaa.org/NIL. They could also follow us, the Eligibility Center, on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. National Letter of Intent, or also known as the NLI, by signing a National Letter of Intent, that student agrees to attend a Division I or Division II for one academic year. The National Letter of Intent ends the recruiting process. Athletes' financial aid is provided for a minimum of 1 year. Students must be admitted to the NCAA school. Students must be eligible for financial aid under the NCAA rules. And again, just for more information, nationalletterof.org is a great place for your student athletes to look. This is a picture of the high school portal, and we're going to talk about what you can do in there and how to update different things. This picture here is a view of the high school portal once you are logged in. You'll see different tabs. There's a core course tab, a fee waiver tab, and school information and task and etc. tabs. We're going to go over each one of these tabs and what you can do in each one. This is the general resources page. You first need to update yourself to the primary or secondary contact. If you're wondering if you should be your school's primary or secondary contact, just note that a school's primary and secondary contact should have access to curriculum, information of courses offered at your school, access to students' records for the purposes of submitting those transcripts to the Eligibility Center, and also ensuring that you have the bandwidth to have ongoing engagement with the Eligibility Center to get information into us to help support those athletes. Next, the task tab. The Eligibility Center will assign a task to your high school that prompts an email to the email address that you have listed as your contact. It can also be found in the information tab at the top of your high school portal. You can review any open or completed tasks under the tab that have been assigned to your school's account. And again, just a reminder that you will receive an email, but it's important when you're logging into the high school portal to check to see if there are any active tasks in there that require you to provide additional information. The Students Report tab. In here, you will be able to see every student athlete that has registered with the NCAA Eligibility Center, former and current. You will also be able to upload their transcripts. Again, if you have questions on how to upload those transcripts, we do have a video that will show you how to do that. Again, note that a transcript may take up to 30 minutes to receive in their account. Also, you can review the fee waiver tab. And again, this is all found in the Student Report tab. Thank you so much for hanging with us. I'm going to now pass it back over to Amber as she wraps us up.
Thank you, Jansen. Thank you, Ivory, and welcome back, everyone. You made it back to me, and I'm going to discuss resources. So first and foremost, let's discuss the most comprehensive resources. First, for high school counselors. For you, it's going to be, of course, the Guide for High School Counselors. It has everything that we've discussed in this webinar plus more. It is a large comprehensive resource. But I will say, if you want quick snippets monthly directly sent to your inbox, scan that QR code there. We'll also put the link in the chat. Sign up and subscribe for our high school newsletter, and that'll give you smaller snippets that you're able to get in a more timely manner, again, directly to your inbox. Now let's switch things over a little bit. Most comprehensive resources for your college-bound student athletes. That's going to be the guide for the college-bound student athlete. I use this often whenever we have student athletes reach out to us on social media with questions. But if you find that this piece is just a little bit too thick and your student athletes aren't reading it, please, please, please use the initial eligibility flyer and send them that way instead. We're now going to take a few questions, and while we do, if you have your phone still sitting in front of you, be sure to scan this QR code, take a quick survey. I promise it is fast. It's under 2 minutes. Just let us know how we did today and what you thought of today's webinar. And if you have any ideas for future webinars or future things that you would like to see covered, we'd love to hear that too. So first question that we have in the chat is, who do we contact with questions? Jansen, if you don't mind taking this question, I'll kick things over to you.
Of course, thanks, Amber. You'd want to contact the high school customer service line, 877-622-2321. Again, that number is 877-622-2321. They are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and you will get to speak to a representative every time.
Thank you, Jansen. Yes, and that number will be listed on an upcoming slide as well. So don't fret if you didn't get to write it down. Jansen, I'm going to stick with you for this next question. This one says, I loved the presentation. Will you make this available to us to provide to the counselors in our district? If so, when?
Yes, it will be available within the next couple of days. It will be sent to all registrants, and the next newsletter is already on the portal.
Thank you, Jansen. I'll give Jansen a break here. Ivory, Coach Long, I'm going to come to you. This one says, do you review the registration fees? Oh, could you review the registration fees for a certification account?
Yes. So for a certification account, the amateurism and the academic and amateurism certification account is $100 for domestic students and $160 for international students. The amateurism only certification account, which is for your international students, is $70. And it's a one-time fee.
Great note. That question is one I get often on social media. It's a one-time fee. Speaking of great opportunities and one-time opportunities, we're hosting a webinar for your student athletes. We hope that you will scan this QR code. Again, if you have your phone hanging out beside you, please share this information with them. This webinar is Sunday, September 17th at 5 p.m. So Sunday, September 17th at 5 p.m. And it's okay if they can't attend live. If they have a game or a match, if they have practice, if they have other responsibilities, completely fine. Just like you all, we will send everyone who registers a recording of the webinar as well as a PDF of the slide deck so they're able to click through all of the links that we provide. So our next question, we'll keep this rolling here. Ivory, I'm going to stick with you. This one says, when does a student need a certification account?
Yeah, that's a question we get a lot as well. So a student will need a certification account when they're being recruited, when they're going on an official visit, or when they want to sign a national letter of intent.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jansen. I'm going to come to you with this next one. How many EC contacts can my school have on our account?
Thank you so much, Amber. Yes, you can have up to 2. By default, the principal is going to be a contact, but you can always change that. Make sure that you follow the change contact form on updating the high school portal.
Thank you, Jansen. And yeah, just a quick note on that contacts change form. You're going to submit that form if you do not know who the contact is at your school or if they no longer work there. If you do have access to log into the portal, you can just click update high school contacts within the portal and get your principal either added or subtracted or make those 2 contacts whoever you would like. Jansen, I'm going to come to you with this next question as well. This one is, how does a student get on a university's IRL?
Typically, that's going to be handled by the NCAA school, but you can always ask to be put on one.
Thank you so much. And you're going to see more QR codes up on your screen here. So again, I'll flash my phone if you have yours sitting out. Shameless plug, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and as of this year, we are on YouTube. So for example, if your students come to you and are confused about which account type they need, we have a video for that. So feel free, use our resources, steal our resources. Just send them the link and have them watch the YouTube video, and it will walk them through the registration process. So I know we're cutting close on time. I'm going to try to get through as many questions as we can. Ivory, I'm coming to you with this next one. This question says, when do high school grades start to count toward a student's EC certification?
Yes, so the 9th grade, their freshman year, is when high school grades start to count towards the student's Eligibility Center certification. We always like to tell student athletes that your 9th grade year is very important. It's like that foundation year to go through your high school career. So making sure that the student athletes understand that that 9th grade year is very, very important.
Thank you so much. And I know this is going to be a quick question for you too, because I know the answer. This one, Ivory, does a student need a certification account to go on an official visit?
That answer would be yes. They do need a certification account to go on an official visit.
Thank you so much. It looks like we've got time for maybe 2 more questions. Jansen, I'm going to come to you with this question. This question is, where do we find our school's list of core courses?
Yes, so you're going to be able to find that on the high school portal, and it's going to be under list of NCAA courses.
Perfect. I know we tweet that link out multiple times throughout the month as well, so you can always find it on our social media too. And then last question that we'll take for now live here. Jansen, is it my responsibility or the students to upload their transcript?
Yes, so that's going to be on the high school. It needs to come from an official email address, and the student is going to need one from every school attended. So it does fall on that high school to upload the transcript for that student athlete.
Perfect. Thank you. And not only thank you, but thank you all for joining us today. If you ever need our customer service team, just know we are here to help. So one last time, if you have your phone out, you can scan this QR code and you can actually save our customer service number to your cell phone, just in case you ever need us. As we mentioned before, we will of course be emailing a recording of today's webinar to everyone that registered in the coming days. So if you have any colleagues that you think would benefit from hearing this information, please share the recording with them. Again, my name is Amber Viles, and on behalf of myself and my colleagues, Jansen Raymond and Ivory Long, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, we are here for you to support you and your students as things change and questions arise. Thank you and be safe.